Hey friends, welcome back to another video. My name's Emma Lefebvre, and today we are going back to basics while I teach you the most basics and important strokes you're gonna need in order to paint beautiful loose florals. I'm gonna show you different techniques, also different brush sizes and shapes to really help you paint your best. So let's jump in and get started. Before we jump into today's video, I just wanted to make an announcement that I am going to be teaching my second watercolor retreat with Utrecht, but this time in Spain, and it's happening at the end of this year from September 15th to the 22nd. Join me for a week-long amazing retreat as we stay at a serene 5-acre private estate surrounded by vibrant gardens and desert flora, complete with a refreshing pool and peaceful terraces for relaxation. And not to mention a week full of watercolor. This retreat is going to be geared to all skill levels, so if you're a beginner, don't worry. I'm going to be helping you with the absolute basics, but if you've been painting for a few years, we're going to be developing your style and working on those pesky struggles you might be having with watercolor. The retreat also includes amazing day trips as well as a private chef that is going to be absolutely incredible. So if you're interested, click the link for all the details, more photos. It's going to be absolutely incredible, and I hope you can join me. And remember, the spots are limited to 16 people. I hope you guys can join me, but for now, let's jump into our tutorial. Okay friends, so today we're going to be going through our basic strokes for loose florals, and I'm going to be showing you with some different shape and size brushes. So I have a size 8 round here, I have a size 10 Filbert, I also have them in smaller versions of this, like a size 6 Filbert, and then a flat wash brush, which is actually a lot of fun to use for florals too. So I have this 3/4 inch flat, but I also have this 1/2 inch, is it 1/2 inch? I think it's 1/2 inch flat from my botanical brush set, which is currently sold out, but will be coming back in stock. But I'm going to show you different strokes that you can practice to really perfect those florals using these shapes. Okay, so to start, I'm going to use my good old round brush. I also have a size 12 here. They come in lots of different sizes. I really have been enjoying a size 8 recently. Really what you need to know is the bigger the brush, the more water and paint it holds. The smaller the brush, the less water and paint it holds. So if you're going to be doing larger flowers, you might want to use a larger brush. If you're going to be doing smaller or medium ones, you're going to use a smaller brush. So I'm going to use my size 8, and the basics of strokes for florals is all about using different pressures. Really for painting, it's all about using different pressures. But what I want you to practice is using different amounts of pressure to get different lines. So as you can see, our brush has a really nice fine tip point. Using really light pressure, you're going to be able to get really nice fine lines. But then as you see towards the middle of the brush, or the bristles, which we call the belly, you can get nice thick lines by using more pressure. So the first thing you're going to do anytime you get a new brush, doesn't matter what size or shape it is, you're just going to practice using different pressure. So here I'm going to use really light pressure, just going side to side, creating these tiny little lines. This is going to help you for stems. This is going to help you for little fine details on your flowers. And really it can be one of the trickiest strokes to do, because you really need to learn how to loosen up, really press lightly. A lot of us, especially I find beginners, we want to, press down like a marker or pen, and it's really hard to get those really loose, tiny little lines. What I like to do is kind of anchor my elbow down to the table and then move my brush and my wrist, just skimming the page, so you get these really tiny fine lines. Now obviously if you have a smaller brush, it works even better. You can get really fine lines with a larger brush because they all have a pretty nice decent tip. The only thing is it can be a little bit trickier because it does hold a lot more water, and if you do put even just a little bit more pressure, it is going to be a bit thicker. This just takes a little bit more practice, but it is possible. But if you are a beginner and you're doing any kind of fine little details to get fine lines, I would use a smaller brush. So practicing this, even like little tiny strokes, is really great to practice, okay? So this is gonna help you with stems and fine lines and details on your flowers. So one thing that I would suggest practicing, I'm just gonna grab a little bit of green here. For stems, whenever I'm doing a stem, I never go straight like this. You don't want your flowers to be stiff and rigid. You always want this nice curved kind of flow. So when you are creating a stem, I always find it best to use a small brush, even smaller than this if you have one, because the stems look a lot more delicate and allow the flowers to kind of really take the forefront of the page when they're nice and big and fluffy and the stem is just kind of like an accent, but also when our stems are curved. So I always, no matter what the flower is, always have a bit of a curve to my stem, whether it's big or small. I find it's easier to work fast to get that nice curve. If you go too slow, that's when it can get kind of shaky, right? But I always curve my stems, even for leaves, which we will get to as well. If I'm doing like a little leaf shape, my stems will always be curved. So that is the first stroke I want you to practice. It might be the most difficult stroke. Getting that really nice thin line with a little bit of pressure is a bit tricky, especially if you have a shaky hand, but just kind of try and move fast and just keep practicing. You'll get it once you kind of develop that muscle memory. So that is the first stroke. Look at my messy page. Okay. The second stroke to learn, actually, no, hold on. The second stroke to learn is a medium kind of to heavy pressure stroke. So again, I'm using my round brush. I'm going to grab whatever color I have here. And what you're going to do is practice pressing down to the belly of the brush. Remember the middle part, not to the ferrule. You don't want to press down so hard that the ferrule scrapes the page. This is called the ferrule. You want it just to be pressed down to the belly of the brush where the brush is the biggest, and that's where you get the thickest lines. And what you're just going to do is practice going light pressure, pressing down to heavy pressure, and then you're going to drag it and then lift up. Okay, and that's kind of a compound stroke where you're going light pressure to heavy pressure to light pressure. And that's going to set you up for almost all of the petal strokes you're going to have to know. So you're going to create leaves with this stroke. You're going to create petals with the strokes. It's really kind of the major stroke that is going to help you create the most beautiful florals. So again, you're going light pressure, heavy pressure, light pressure. And it kind of looks like a leaf, right? But now what we're going to do is we're going to take that stroke and we're going to move our brush in a curved motion to get a bit of movement to that curve, okay? So you're going to go light pressure, heavy pressure, and you're going to kind of curve the brush. See how I'm kind of going around? And I'm lifting, and see how it kind of gives this nice little crescent? That's going to be perfect for leaves and petals. So I'll show you putting it together to create a leaf. We're going to do the same thing, but we're going to curve the other way, and it's going to meet right at the tip. So curve, back, and it meets at the tip. And you have this kind of leaf shape. Obviously, there's a little bit of white space in between, but that's fine. And really, that's the majority of what you need to know. Okay, so now it's all about practicing this stroke in different ways. So I want you to curve it over, lift up, curve under, lift up, and you're still kind of dragging it as you're lifting. So you get that nice kind of tapered end. If you lift up abruptly, which is fine, you're going to get more of a blunt rounded end like this. So you press down, light pressure, heavy pressure, and then you lift up. You don't get that tapered end, you get kind of this rounded end, which is fine because actually that works for some petals as well. You might want to practice that. You can even just practice kind of like pressing down and up, down and up, okay? Down and up. And then if you want that nice tapered end, you're going to press down and then slowly bring it up while you're dragging it. Okay? So we did it over and under. I want you to also practice going the letter C. This is called the C stroke because it looks like a letter C. Okay? You can go that way and go that way. And you're just going to keep practicing this stroke. It's all about practice and creating that muscle memory when you're doing these strokes, okay? So another little stroke that I like to do is similar to what we did here, but it's just dabbing with the tip of our brush. We're using the shape of our brush to just create marks. Now, as you can see, it's really dark towards the tip and it's really light over here. That's because most of the water and paint landed right there when I lift it up. In order to not create separation from dark to light, you're just going to go back over with the color and just move it. But it creates this effortless like teardrop shape, which is actually really nice if we're creating some flowers like lavender or lilacs. You might have, you know, a bunch of little flower buds like this just by pressing down and lifting up and using the shape of your brush. Okay? I'm going to show you with a slightly larger brush that you can get the same kind of things. And this time we're going to practice leaves because it's the exact same strokes, just in green. Okay? So again, light pressure, heavy pressure. I'm going to curve my brush and then light pressure to the tip. Like that, we have a leaf. If you want to make it a nice big kind of thicker leaf, you're going to meet right at the tip where we started. Light pressure, heavy pressure, kind of curve it upwards and meet the tip there. You have this really nice big chunky leaf. Let's combine it with our stem stroke. So you're going to create a really nice thin stem, light pressure, like that. Again, it's always curved. Okay, let's create a couple different stems coming off of this initial one. I'm going to do another one. This one's going to come up this way, and this one's going to come up this way. Again, they are curved. You do not want this, where they're sticking straight out. This is more like an L shape. You want to create a V with your stems, so they're all flowing one way. And then we can create our leaves. This time we're going to do just one stroke instead of two. To create a big chunky leaf, we're just going to make a smaller one. So I'm going to go light pressure, heavy pressure, light pressure. There's one leaf. Light pressure, heavy pressure, light pressure. Two, light, heavy, light. Okay, and if you find that your leaf is looking a little bit lighter towards the center, that the paint is not distributed evenly, you can just go back over the whole thing. Kind of move your paint around to make it all one flat wash. It's really up to you the way you like it. Okay, but you don't want to be doing this. Okay, where your leaves are sticking straight out. It doesn't flow as nicely. All right, so that's using a round brush. That's the basics, using a round brush. But let's try some other brushes. So one brush I really love using for florals is a Filbert. A Filbert is a flat brush if you turn it to the side, but then when you turn it on its kind of belly, it has this really nice rounded tip, which is actually perfect for florals. So I'm gonna grab some pink and I'm just going to show you the same kind of thing. Again, you can create nice thin lines with this too. If you turn it flat, you can do nice thin stems this way too. I would probably use a smaller thin round brush for it just because it's a little bit easier. But if you're just working with one brush and you're working with your Filbert, it is possible. Look at that. You can get really nice thin lines. It's almost a little bit easier because it's thicker, just for like the shorter ones. But what I want you to practice doing is the same kind of strokes. We're going to press down to the belly of the brush. So we're going to apply a little bit of pressure, drag down to the belly, and then lift. It's not going to be tapered because it's not a pointed brush. You're going to get more of a blunt edge, but I'm going to show you how to get that tapered look with this nice rounded petal. But first, practice seeing what marks it can make just the way it is. Even turn it on its side. When it goes on its side, it looks a little bit more like a round brush, right? So you can get that same kind of petal look with this brush just by placing it on its side. And that's key for creating the tapered kind of petal look with this brush. Okay, so what we want to do to create these perfect little petals is we are going to not place our brush completely flat, but a little bit on an angle. And what we're going to do, once we apply the pressure and we start to lift, we're going to turn the brush so we get it to go to that side, which is going to taper the end of the petal to create that petal shape. So if we just go flat and lift, we get that blunt edge. What we want to do is go kind of a bit on an angle to start. And then we're going to turn it and lift. And we get that really nice tapered edge. I find this works best when you go faster. Doing this slow is a little bit trickier. I like to kind of go like that, and you get these really nice petal shapes. And see what I'm doing, I know it's hard to see because I'm doing it fast. It's harder to do it slow. I'm dragging it, and then I'm turning it and lifting. And it creates these perfect petal shapes. And I like to kind of put them together sometimes. And you can change the thickness of your petal based on the angle of your brush. So obviously if I go flat, this is going to be the largest petal. Okay, flat, because you're pressing down. See, it's so hard to do it slow. And then if I want it thinner, I'm going to put it on more of an angle. And then even thinner, even more of an angle. So this one does take a little bit of practice, I'm not going to lie. It's a little bit trickier, I find, than a round brush, but once you get the hang of it, you get these perfect petals that are like effortless. So let's just do an example of a flower, just petals going around. I'm just going to kind of create this little circle for that center. And remember, all of those little tapered edges, the base of the petal, all want to come right back to this circle. Okay, so I'm going to go like this and lift. You're kind of lifting up and away. And I'm just going to, okay, I'm going to change the angle of my brush, make some smaller ones. And I'm just twisting my brush kind of. And I'm doing a quick lift to get that nice tapered look. I'm also curving my brush like we did up here. Okay, I'm not going straight. I'm kind of curving it. I'm moving my brush in a curved fashion, if you will. Now, I find this this brush really nice for, you know, sunflowers, because you can get these kind of perfect little petal shapes. Okay. But that's kind of the gist of how to use this brush. And you can even use them for leaves as well. You could do your nice little stem here and just do a leaf by putting it on its side like we did with the round brush. Okay, creates almost perfect little leaves as well. So that is the Filbert. And again, they come in different sizes. They have them on Craftamo's website under my collaboration with them. We have them in like this tiny size 2, which is really fun to use. So you could do like the tiniest little daisies. And the beauty of this brush is that you just have that rounded tip already to go to create those perfect little petals, okay? And then we also have, let me see if I can find it. Oh, here's a size 8. Okay, this is kind of like a nice mid size. Again, I find it works the best when you're really kind of fast and loose with it. When you're too slow and careful, it just doesn't feel right. So even just covering a page with just little strokes like this is always a good way to practice. All right. Okay, so that is the Filbert. The last brush I'm going to show you is a flat brush. So I have this shorter flat brush, which is a 3/4 inch, and then I have my 1/2 inch, which is a little bit longer. The bristles are a little bit longer, but they work the same. So obviously looking at this kind of square shape, you know, you're like, how are you going to make petals with that? What you're going to do is you're going to tilt it on its side. So let's start with the 3/4 inch. So I'm going to start, let's grab another color. Why not? With this, again, any new brush, you just want to practice and see what kind of strokes you get. You get some nice kind of squares, rectangles. You can see what kind of thin lines you can get with this. Okay, you can just dab if you want. You can get nice thin lines with this. But the way we're going to use this brush for florals is we are going to tilt it on its side. So you can see the 2 corners. What you're going to do, instead of having it flat, you're going to tilt it on its side. And it creates, again, doing that kind of C curve, lift up, you get these really beautiful petals because it's not quite rounded. It has a little bit more of this like sharper geometric shape to it. But I really love the way it turns out. So just on that one corner, you're going to go light pressure, heavy pressure, press down, curve it, and then light pressure up because because it has that corner, it gives you a really nice point, almost easier than the Filbert. Okay, and you just create these beautiful petals with it. So again, on the corner, press down, curve it, bring it up, and like it's almost easier than the Filbert too. I love creating flowers with this one. And it has a little bit more of a boxiness to it that's not as rounded, which I like better. Almost feels a little bit more organic to me. Okay, and you're just gonna kind of, so here it looks a little too flat, so I'm gonna put it more on its edge. And I like to kind of have the strokes, kind of coming together to create petals. But it's a lot of fun to do. So again, really practicing your pressure strokes. If you put it on its side, again, it kind of looks like that round brush. You can create that same kind of look. Quickly, since it's so pronounced, I'm just going to address it here. If you notice these blooms are happening on your strokes, the reason why that's happening is when you press down like this and then you lift, your watercolor, didn't do it there, of course, as I'm trying to explain. Your watercolor tends to pool in the area where you've lifted. So the reason why this happens is because there's an uneven amount of water and it's drying at different rates. So here where it's darker, there's more water. Here where it's lighter, it's already dried. So if you don't like that look, all you're gonna do is just, once you've done your stroke, you're gonna go back over the whole thing, distribute the water evenly over the whole surface of that stroke, and then you shouldn't be getting those blooms. Okay, so that's the flat brush. I'm gonna show you with the smaller one, which I really enjoy. So this one's a little bit longer, but it's the same kind of thing. I'm running out of room on this page. But again, we're not leaving it flat, we're tilting it to its side. And the beauty of having the longer bristles is that you can get kind of longer strokes and a little bit more water, so you can have those long, I don't know, strokes. But see how the water is just sitting in a pool right here? That would create that bloom. So again, just go over it just to distribute the water evenly, and then you won't get those blooms. Okay, it's perfectly okay to go back over your stroke, or if you notice there's a little bit of pooling in your stroke, all you can do is dry off your brush on your paper towel and just gently lift some of that excess water, and that should deal with the problem right away. But using those blooms can sometimes add some nice texture to your paintings, which is a preference of a lot of people, so don't worry if it does happen. Okay, so again, just on an angle, on that one tip, not completely, excuse me, not completely on its side, on an angle. And then I like to go kind of bring it together. But I like this kind of edge of our petal a little bit more than that really nice rounded petal that you get with the Filbert. Depends on what you're looking for. But that are the, oh my God. But those are the strokes to practice for loose florals. And once you've got that down, you can create some of the most beautiful loose florals. So I'm just going to finish off this video by creating a really loose floral page for you as an example, and I hope you enjoy it. Thank you all so much for watching my video. I really hope you enjoyed it and I hope you learned something. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and follow me on all my other platforms for tons more content. Have a wonderful day, guys. Bye.